As well as HTML and CSS, the remaining language recognized by web browsers is JavaScript. JavaScript is code that can be used to add interactive features to web pages without having to obtain information from the server. For this reason, it is called client-side code. In IT terminology, a browser is referred to as a client. This means that JavaScript runs on the computer of the person viewing the site and not on the web server that is hosting the site. Because JavaScript is client-side, you can never rely on it running. The visitor might have disabled JavaScript in their browser settings. The C# code that you'll be learning later is server-side code and can't be directly interfered with by visitors to your site. Although you won't need to write any JavaScript code in order to create basic ASP.NET sites, it's important that you can recognize it when you see it, as ASP.NET can automatically add JavaScript code to ASPX pages. To begin this lesson, open the HTML test sample file from your Sample Files folder. And open scripttest.aspx in Source View. You can see that a link to scripttest.js has already been added to this page. In the same way as CSS, you can add JavaScript directly to the page instead of keeping it in a separate file. But just like with CSS, it's best practice to keep your JavaScript code in separate files. Add a new line to the head tag and add the following inline JavaScript code. Script type equals text/JavaScript alert begin brackets begin quote hello end quote end brackets semicolon. Now view scripttest.aspx in your browser. You have to do this to test JavaScript code because Design View isn't capable of executing JavaScript. You should see a message pop up on the screen. This is one of the most basic JavaScript functions. Click OK now. Close your browser and remove the JavaScript code that you added. Next, you're going to assign a JavaScript function so that it runs when a div tag is clicked. To do this, click inside the div id equals button tag and set the onClick property with the following code. onClick equals click message. Now view the page in your browser again and click the Click Me div. A message pops up when you click. This message was displayed by the clickMessage function in the scripttest.js file. You'll examine this function in a moment. By adding the function's name to the div's onClick property, you've made it run when the div is clicked. Click OK now, and close your web browser. Next, you're going to add some JavaScript code that will change the color of the div when it is clicked. First, open the scripttest.js file from the Scripts folder. Here you can see the clickMessage JavaScript function. Remove the alert clicked line and add the following code in its place. Document.getElementById, begin brackets, begin quote, button, end quotes, end brackets, dot setAttribute, begin brackets, begin quotes, style, end quotes, comma, quotes, background, color, red, end quotes, end brackets, semicolon. This might seem like a complicated piece of code, but if you break it down into its components, it's not so difficult to understand. Document.getElementById button tells JavaScript to search the page for an element with an ID of button. The blue div tag on the page is called button, so it will find this tag. SetAttribute style background color red tells JavaScript to set the style property of the tag to background color red. You've used the style property before, in lesson 2.8. You've already set the clickMessage function to run when the div is clicked. When the user clicks on the div, this JavaScript code will change the div's HTML code by adding a style tag with background color red. Now view scripttest.aspx in your web browser once more. And click on the Click Me div. The color of the div changes when it is clicked. Note that if this doesn't happen, your browser has probably kept a copy of the old version of the JavaScript file. Try refreshing the page, and everything should work properly. Many of ASP.NET's special functions are accomplished using JavaScript. But you might never know this, as it's all generated automatically behind the scenes. Although there's a lot more to know about JavaScript, the basic understanding provided in this lesson will enable you to complete and understand all of the lessons in this course. Close your web browser now, and close Visual Studio. You've now completed Lesson 2.11, Work with JavaScript.